All right, drawing while talking. So, yeah, today, sorry, trying to deal with stupid microphone. Yeah, anyway. Um, but today, still working on, so this is an Atlas sketch, a different Atlas sketch. Come back and show, well, this is actually gonna be the drawing. This is the preparatory sketch here, hence the sketchbook thing. Yeah, so whatever. So this is the basic idea. In the interest of full disclosure, there's an awesome sculpture fountain in Vienna, Austria, and I took a lot of inspiration, or swiped, or stole, or ripped off, or whatever you want to say, from that. So I don't, yeah, similarities, whatever. Anyway, I will mention. I'll try and have the name for it next time I talk about this. But yeah, so what I thought I would do is go from like, yeah, really just walk through, which is not, or draw through, right? Perhaps a better way of saying it. Yeah, I was going to just try and lay out uh, like how I'd approach something like this, or I'd approach this drawing, which feels kind of, in some ways, kind of, just let me say right, like right up front, this can change a lot. None of this is definitely the thing about drawing. Like none of this is, I mean, it's drawing. These are pencil marks right now. So, and none of this is set in stone. And it's one of the great things about drawing as well. It's so much better than ink and paint and stuff. Although, yeah, I mean, it was stuff like uh, oil paint. Yeah, I mean, you can always change things. Anyway, yeah, I'm not even sure you particularly care about that. So, and now there's always the interesting question: is the figure actually going to fit on the paper? I have a really bad habit of like, I don't even know if it's a bad habit, but it's definitely something I do. I definitely have real trouble. I really wish I could keep drawings smaller. I really wish I could keep things. And I got to find the stupid middle of the paper, which is damn it. I gotta get, yeah. And you really need to get a tape measure down here. So that's like 18 and 18 plus 15. Great. Now I just knocked the camera around. Man, this is sad comedy of errors here. Uh, okay, I think this is like 34. Anyway, I suspect I'm just going to go ahead and say it is. So, nah, it can't be the middle of the paper. Ah, for crying out loud. 18. And what the hell's wrong with me? 18 and 12. Yeah, so 30. So we're talking like 30, 40. Yeah, it's the middle of the page, like basically right there. So it's close. Anyway, yeah, stupidly. All right, so okay, I guess I'm trying to show warts and all here. I guess I'm trying to show all the mistakes, all the problems, and if it even makes sense to talk about mistakes at this point, because, like I say, it's just a drawing at this point. They really haven't committed much to anything, and how much do you really ever commit anyway? Since you can always erase, you can always cheat with that, which is why tattoos are. Yeah, man, I could never get a tattoo for about a million reasons, but also just like I'd be so terrified because I'd find some problem in it later on, or yeah, I could not deal, could not handle, uh, could not handle finding some problem with some problem with the proportions, and you can't really go back and change it. Man, it'd be terrifying to be a tattoo artist. I just really must be awful. So at least it would be for me. I would totally stress the fact that you can't easily erase or change things. That must just be awful. Yeah. Anyway, so this is probably going to be what you might. So painters probably derisively call this like a sculptor's drawing. This is really going to be about, this is really concerned with a lot with mass. I'm doing this as a model for potential sculpture, and I want to see how it's going to work out. And right now, this atlas is going to be holding a giant rock, a giant boulder. But I might change that, right? I have a few, I think I have a few, yeah, I have a few preparatory, I have a few sketches of an atlas, and it's much more like a kind of, it's a partial sphere. It's like a cracked sphere that he's holding. So I might also make some drawings of that. But right here, and this is going to be like crawling under the camera. It's kind of pain, so maybe I won't try that. This right here is going to be, well, I'll show this to friends, and I talk about like how possibly to making this wouldn't be that hard. Questions about maybe molding it and how best to mold it, how to make a mold of it, and then get a cast off of it. So right now, just really in the preparatory stages. If anyone is a, I don't know, materials nerd, tool nerd, something like that, I don't know, this is a Write in the Rain pencil, 1.3 millimeter. Really, it's a shop pencil. It's a pencil you want to keep like in your wood shop or whatever, and it's pretty good for that. So maybe start doing reviews at one point, and talk about different pros and cons of these materials and so on. Not really sure how that's relevant here. So yeah, this so really when trying to get an idea if you're, how's it going to work? What should the ratio of the boulder to the figure be? This is really taken up pretty obviously with mass. This is a sculpture. Everything pressed down. So I kind of trying to kind of think about that, like how are you going to convey the body, right? Atlas's form, kind of weighted down by the boulder that he's, by the sky, by the boulder that he's holding up, the world that he's holding up. I suppose you can take your pick. One thing about that is that it's kind of that's one thing I think kind of really appealing about the subject that I discovered. I discovered sounds pretentious, but yeah, that I came across in making the drawing, which is that like in this, see, it's gonna be hard to fit the stupid hand down. This is like, I hate this about myself. I don't know, I suppose I can always just tack on like another whole sheet of paper if I have to. But yeah, so the sculpture, even I think more than the drawing, it's going to have, if I can pull it off, if I do it, if I can get it to work, it's going to have opposed forces, obviously, right? There's going to be weight coming down. There's going to be weight pressing down on him, down on Atlas, down on the figure. So on the one hand, it's weight, right? Everything's going to be pressing it down into the base, pressing down on the sculpture itself. On the other hand, here you have strength, here you have force, you have a force pushing up, right? A force, obviously, a force lifting. It's more appealing to me than when I started for that reason. I mean, the having the opposed forces, right? Having the two forces struggling with each other is pretty appealing. It's also kind of really, it's also cool, or it's also, I like it also in that, as I'm sure you know, it's kind of a fascinating, not kind of, I mean, it's a genuinely fascinating fact about our sun, the sun, and well, any sun really. And the sun, of course, is just exploding, always exploding. It's always exploding outwards, um, always trying to go outward, always trying to explode, always trying to move out. But it's incredibly massive, and incredibly dense, and so of course there's incredible gravitational force, or there's incredible force holding the sun in, right, holding it all together. I mean, the sun is so massive, right? Why doesn't it? It's so massive, it's so dense. Why doesn't it just collapse on itself? Why doesn't it just collapse on itself and become a black hole, or a white dwarf, red dwarf, a neutron star, what have you? Because it wants to do that. Its mass is causing it to want to all collapse in on itself. The reason it's not is it's always exploding. Right? It's always, as I said, the sun's constantly exploding. It's just ongoing nuclear explosions of just unimaginable amounts of energy. So with the sun, there's tremendous energy going out, and there's tremendous energy coming in. It's really quite fascinating. Now, ultimately, the sun's going to burn through all its material. It's only got so much material that it can burn up. It will take an awfully long time. Of course, it's going to take, not a concern for any of us, only a concern for science fiction authors who write, what is it called? You call far future, distant future books where the sun is burning out. I think the sun's dying. Right? It's on its last leg, so to speak. I think Jack Vance. I think that's actually called The Dying Earth. I haven't read Jack Vance, but I think I knew the concept. And the sun is, it's just kind of a dull. There's kind of a dull red at the brightest time during the day on Earth, right? There's only just a dull, kind of a dull red cast of the sky, which I've often wondered how do they continue to grow plants? Well, I don't know about often, but I've wondered how do you continue growing plants? How do you continue agriculture, cultivation? How do things stay alive? I don't know. Maybe they've adjusted to it over time. It's also, Gene Wolfe, The Shadow of the Torturer books, which are so much better than they sound, given that title. Same situation. I think Wolfe had a rather wonderful description of it, which I think was, he said, he described his Earth. It's a far future Earth. The sun's dying out. As I say, it's on its last legs. He said it's like a house where the couple has lived in it for a long time, and they've spent all the money. All the money's gone. All the resources have pretty much been used up. The house is full of stuff, but they've burned through all the resources. Nothing. You're not going to get new resources. You're not going to get new stuff. And I thought that was a pretty wonderful description of the situation. Quite poetic, really. Quite charming. Let me just also add one thing, and I am going to have to work on this, is the expression. I can tell it's going to be very hard to get that down, but I did really want to try, and I'm not going to get it here. I'm going to have to work on it for a while, but I did want to try and really convey an expression of this grim, set mouth, this grim determination of trying to hold up the Earth, trying to hold up the sky. It looks better in the sketch. It looks probably because probably because I was being self-conscious about it. So I should just do it here and leave it with it's going to look kind of weird, but that's fine. I mean, definitely there's a problem with one thing with drawings is, that looks weird, it looks out of place. Yeah, and that's really important because you want to get proportions and things right. On the other hand, you can so sort of take things down. You can so sort of bring things down to you can smooth everything out. You can make everything look so normal. Well, that it looks weird, and even worse, you can do so much that it looks boring. So yeah, so let's see, a couple of other things just to talk about drawing for a moment. I think I say this too much, but yeah, probably go fast, especially in the initial stages. Try not to be self-conscious. I understand, of course, that that's hard, but you know, the thing about drawing is, at least the kind I do, at least this way, like, I mean, things are going to change. You should just accept that, and erasing is more important, probably. Taking away stuff is a lot more important than what you put down at this stage. You can always put down more lines. Then again, you can always erase more. But yeah, it's better just to get the drawing down and see what works. I mean, that way, I guess it's like writing. It's everyone says, like, the point is just do the first draft. Get through the first draft. Get that done, and you can agonize over it and worry about it and figure out what's wrong. Also, yeah, I hope this doesn't sound like cheating. I mean, this is sculptors' drawings, somewhat. I mean, they can be kind of derided. You find, I guess, in art history sometimes, well, not just in art history, contemporary painters kind of making fun of them, right? They're not. It's like you know, with the sculptor drawings, often they're much simpler. You're really worried about mass. You're really worried about mass and the shapes and how they're going to deal with each other. You're less worried about, say, like, well, obviously the shading and the transitions and so forth, because after all, this is ultimately going to be something in 3 dimensions. So yeah, really working here on the mass. Yeah, and also this is going to be, yeah, I'll use this as a plan. Yeah, I got to make an armature, right? I got to make like a whole metal, not whole metal, but I have to make an armature wire sculpture for this figure, and I figure out how I would do like the big boulder that he's holding up. So that's not like that's especially hard or anything, but drawing, yeah, should make it easier to know what it's going to be like. And I probably will make a maquette of this, which is just like a maquette's like a maquette sculpture for drawing. I'll try and make a pretty quick small figure of this atlas to see how it's going to work out, see how it's going to, yeah, and see how it's going to look in 3 dimensions and whether or not it'll work. I think it will, but you know, who knows ultimately. So I'm probably not even going to start in on the charcoal here today. Well, or at least right now, at least for this video. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll work on this independent or come back and do more of it in video form to show the development. I don't know. You can vote in the comments and tell me what you think is a good idea that way or bad idea that way. Do you want to see? Yeah, I guess it's like with video games. Do you want to see the grinding? Do you want to see the grinding you have to go through to level up or whatever, require the needed items, or you just want to see the results? You know, do you just want to see boss fights, or do you want to see the grinding going into the boss fights, all the what is it? Yeah, it's not, would improve your weapons. I can't remember. There's a much better term for it. All right, let me just say, like, one last thing on a personal note. If you can draw small, like, and by small I mean if you can kind of like contain your drawings, man, I'm really jealous of you, like, bro, seriously jealous. Like this, like, going to the edge is never It's almost irresistible for me, and it's never enough. Right? I always feel like it's got to go. I always feel like it has to go farther. So I really, yeah, if you can draw and keep things contained, like within a certain rectangle and so forth, yeah, just for the record, I'm really jealous of you. I wish I had that skill. And I guess I could acquire it, I guess I could force myself to have it, but yeah, I do not have it, and I tend to end up hating the results. I love it when other people do it. I think it's just totally awesome, and I just totally think it's the best. Like I love like the really restricted, especially prints. You know, and I guess maybe it's probably easier to do with prints, but like the restricted small landscapes and stuff. I think those are just fantastic, and I feel like I'm terrible at them. So yeah, it's a real drag. It's a real bummer. So yeah, I do wish I could do that. I wish I could find a way to work on that. So I also am going to do one thing, and I think you're probably noticing is I'm going to have to. I'll probably do additional drawings, thinking about the legs, thinking about exactly how the legs are going to work. Like right now, I have his right leg coming up like that, and it looks too small. It's going to need to be bigger. Yeah, I'm going to have to do some drawings. And you can see here, left off the legs. So I probably will do, not probably, I definitely will do an additional drawing to think about how that's going to be worked out before getting into the maquette. Although, you know, with the maquette, it can be really easy because you just make an action figure. You just make a doll, and then you set the doll up the way the doll would be. Right? You can move the doll around and see like how the legs are going to go, and you can twist them this way and that, and you can take all sort of things all sort of ways. And you can experiment, I suppose. Not experiment, I suppose. You can experiment in 3 dimensions, not just 2. So there is that. Let's see. One stupid thing I like to do, although it's not really stupid because it's a pretty basic drawing exercise, like these kind of lines to figure out how the surfaces, the planes here, the forms are going to be going. There's an exercise you do like in life drawing where you kind of go along, draw like lines, like trace what's happening on the surface of on these surfaces, right? It's like, you know, what does the line do? If you were to draw a line across like the arm here, like would it? You can think of the muscles and so forth as like mountains, hills, and you have them meeting each other. Almost like topography, right? Really, you're kind of trying to do. So you look at a topographical map, you're trying to do, you're really doing a topographical drawing of the human body. You're kind of, you're showing the topographical map shows where the land is elevated, and it shows where it goes down, that shows the valleys, and shows the hollows and the dales, and you can see the rivers and the creeks, and you can see where there's a saddle, or you can see where, but you can see a table, which is a flat. You have a hill, and then like you'll have going on one side of the hill maybe a flat surface like this, which is where deer will walk, and it's where you will walk as well if you're out hiking because it's the path of least resistance. So yeah, you're really just you're doing topography with the human body. Another reason to do fuller drawing, including the legs and so forth, is that, again, trying to think here, this is going to be, again, the play of the 2 forces, right? Because this has got to be, the body's being compressed, the body's being pushed down by the enormous weight that it's bearing, and at the same time, the body is forcing upwards. The body is exerting force upwards against the weight. So yeah, all right, cool. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll stop here because coming up on 25 minutes. So yeah, I'll come back, do more of this. But yeah, thanks for checking it out. And yeah, see you later.